Hello and welcome along to this mechanical walkthrough for my 2009 Porsche Cayman. Sadly, I'm putting the car up for sale and decided to do a few videos of it. This will be a detailed mechanical walkthrough of all the work I've done, point out some scratches here and there, and go into a little bit more detail. Then I'll do a walk around outside in the sun to give you a better look at everything, but figured this is the garage where all the work was done and it's the most appropriate place to go into detail. I am, I believe, the fourth owner. Picked it up in January of 2019 from a Mercedes dealership. So I unfortunately don't have any of the old details of any work that was done on it, but there is a pretty decent Carfax. So there's also a thread on Rennlist that I've created that details my entire history of all the mods and mechanical work and upgrades and trials and tribulations that I've gone through. So I will put a link for that in the description below. And yeah, let's go ahead and talk about it. So this had 71,000 miles when I picked it up. I'm currently around 80,500, just shy of that. It is not a garage queen, although it may look like it. Does definitely have some bumps and bruises over the years. But yeah, it's definitely a driver's car. Mechanically, it's in great shape. And whoever will be the next owner will be getting a great car. So there's no clear bra on the front bumper or the hood or the mirrors or anything. So there are some rock chips. Maybe you'll be able to see those. Fortunately, the previous dealer installed the front plate and drilled holes in it, so I had to get plugs for that. Also scuffed up a little bit the bumper itself with the bracket, so that's unfortunate. Even though this is a base model, I replaced the spoiler lips down there and just got new ones and had them paint matched. Gives it a more aggressive look. The clear side markers were installed by the previous owner. For the headlights, I replaced the stock halogens with Ostrom night breakers. Not incredibly different, but definitely noticeable. Installed a new Bosch battery a couple months ago. You should be good to go for a while. Oh, by the way, I've replaced all the interior lights in the front, as you can see, and the trunk with LEDs. Let's go ahead and show you guys the tools and the compressor. They're all here. I've never used the compressor. I actually have a spare one that I use. And there's the tire sealant, which I'm sure is definitely expired. But hey, it's authentic. And as for the brake fluid, flushed that last year with, I believe, .4 Porsche fluid. So still looks good. As for the windshield wiper, the pump itself had gone bad. It was leaking, so I replaced the pump and the grommet. So that's been taken care of. Replaced the cabin air filter, which is down underneath there. As for the wheels, I do have the stock wheels available. They came with the 18-inch Cayman S2 wheels. Those have been replaced with OZ Ligera HLTs, 19 by 8.5 in the front, 19 by 10 in the back, with the stock sizes for the tires, and these are the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S. So 235s in the front, 265s in the back. Also replace the bolts while While I was at it, old ones were definitely a little bit rusty. And when I got new wheels, I also got new tire pressure monitors or sensors. So those have also been replaced. Like many Porsches of this era, the plastic pin in the door mechanism is broken and you can't really replace it just by itself. So that's something that if you wanted to fix that, you'd have to replace the entire assembly, which I have not done. I've just been using the key fob to open and close the doors. When I got the car, the lacquer on this part of the trim piece had worn off, and so to replace that, I had to take the whole door off because this trim piece is really welded with plastic pins to the actual door panel. So I had to take the door panel off, drilled out the pins, got a new one, and instead of melting the plastic again, I just used screws and washers to hold it down and put some wire loom tape on top to prevent it from backing out, and also just for noise, and it's worked out pretty well. The other side is fine, but this side definitely needed to be addressed. These are the base sport seats. A little bit of wear in the bolster, as you would expect, but no actual deep scratches or anything. I did install a sprint booster, so that's neatly kind of tucked in the back there, so if you wanted to continue to adjust your throttle response, you can do that. Steering wheel was replaced with one from DCT Motorsports. This is a reconditioned 997 steering wheel, flat bottom, thicker, and incredibly more enjoyable. Here you can see the mileage. The previous owner also replaced the head unit with this Pioneer unit that has navigation, Android Auto, and it's also hooked up to the camera in the rear license plate frame. So you do have a backup camera, and there's also a Sirius antenna that used to be on the windshield, and I don't use that, so I took that off just for a cleaner look, but I kept it underneath the cowl, so if you wanted to put that back, that's totally fine, you can do so. And there's the USB for you to connect your phone. There's also a microphone, so you can do Bluetooth calls. Works pretty well. Haven't heard any complaints. Last year my headliner started to sag, and so I went through the process of replacing that myself with just black suede. There are some wrinkles in the back. Unfortunately, it wasn't a perfect install, but you don't see them while you're driving, you don't see them when you pop the trunk. You really don't see them at all unless you actively look for them. Carpets are all in really good shape. There are some scratches on the plastic trim pieces. Most of them were definitely there before I got the car. Doesn't take much. This lacquer that's on top is pretty thin. And I thought about just replacing this cover, and I think it's like 190 bucks just by itself. So I didn't. Got your net. There it is again. It's a nice net. Alright, and here we are in the back, and let's talk about suspension. So the car just had your standard suspension when I got it, and I replaced it with essentially the Cayman R setup. So I got the Cayman R springs and the Bilstein B6 shocks. And they're not exactly the same in terms of damping as the Cayman R shocks, but pretty close according to one of the reps that I talked to. And I had the X73 on my 981 Cayman S, and it feels just like it. So while I did that, a lot of other things happened. I replaced all the bearings, the shock mounts, so that's all new all around. Replaced the control arms and the toe links in the back. And then that's when I realized I had a torn CB boot on the right hand side, so that was replaced. And then while I was in there, I also replaced the transaxle oil. And so just a lot of little things here and there that just added up, but the car feels fantastic after that. Had an alignment done right afterwards, and yeah, it completely transformed the car. You do get a little bit of condensation in the taillight on the left side. After wash, you could probably see it there since I just washed it. And so that has caused a little bit of damage to that really thin material down in the corner. So that's one thing that you can replace if you'd like to match the other side. Had a little bit of damage on these bumperettes. There were some scuffs here and there, and so I think it happened the same time as these scratches. And so to replace those, I had to take the rear bumper off just to get them off, and I had both of them painted at the same time. As for exhaust, I've done the Carnival mod, so just stock setup just with reduced baffles and the muffler, and then these are the Soul Performance X-Pipe tips. Really modernizes the look, and the car sounds great. It's loud enough to really enjoy the flat six, but doesn't really piss off your neighbors. At least not enough for them to tell you. Spoiler works. You can see the other taillight's in good shape. There is a small dent right around, I think you can see it there, right around there. Driver's door is in good shape as far as the trim goes. Almost forgot to mention that I also replaced the switch to open up the frunk and trunk. The plastic had kind of worn off, and it wouldn't open up the frunk every single time, so took care of that. There's the VIN. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Here's the oil and coolant filler caps. So the cap has been replaced, both this one here and the one inside the engine department. The strap for the fuel cap ripped on me, so replace that. Also replace the gas struts for both the front and the trunk. The first big mod I did when I got the car was replace the shifter cables. It's a known issue and definitely recommended to replace them because they will break on you at the worst time. So I replaced them with the numeric racing cables. I kept the stock shifter, basically because I just like the way it feels. You could obviously get shorter if you wanted to, but the way it is now, it's perfect for me. And the cables have a real nice solid feel to them, and you really have that rifle bolt action sound, as I will now demonstrate. And there's reverse. So yeah, it also totally transformed the car, and obviously great for reliability. So That has been taken care of. Let's go to the cup holders. Look at that. And in the glove box, where you will find gloves. Amazing. Well, now that we have this cool lighting, might as well talk to you about some of the other cool things I've done on the car. I replaced purged the R134A refrigerant. The AC wasn't cool enough, and now it is, so that's taken care of. I replaced the water pump, and just as a precautionary measure, should really do it every 60,000 miles, and there's no record of it, so I replaced the water pump and then the thermostat at the same time. And while I did that, I flushed the coolant entirely, and also replaced a couple of the O-rings on the pipes. While doing that, also I inspected the serpentine belt, and that's fine, so no reason to replace that. I replaced the spark plugs, and recently I was actually getting a misfire code as of a couple weeks ago, and so I replaced those, and that took care of it, and installed the stock Bosch plugs. So that's been taken care of. Also got a little bit of blue smoke, and you probably know what that is. So that was the air oil separator. That's been replaced. As far as fluids are concerned, standard oil change every year, along with the brake fluid like I mentioned. I didn't completely flush the power steering fluid, but I did withdraw as much as I could from the reservoir, filled it with new fluid, turned on the car for a little bit to recirculate. Did that a few times and went through about, I think, a little bit over a liter of new Pentasyn power steering fluid, and that definitely made a difference. Yeah, it's not a true flush. So that's pretty much everything that I can think of. I did detail the engine bay and cleaned that up. Just a lot of dust and dirt from 12 years of driving. If you have any questions, please comment below and I will do my best to answer. Hope the new owner enjoys it as much as I have.